Hello and welcome to Shelley's Sacred Space. And this is our Tarot Tidbits. I wanted to do, before we move on to the suits, a recap of the Fool's Journey. And I thought this would be a great time to show you a little tip that I learned. Now, I learned this after I had already become efficient in reading tarot, but I decided to try it anyways, and I really liked it. So I think it's a great option for learning tarot. And what it is you take the tarot card, you look at it, you feel into it, you read it, and you pick one word, just one, that represents it. And what I did was I picked one word for if it was upright and one word for if it was not upright. So there you have faith. And then if it's upside down, you have careless. And then I knew what that word meant to me. So it became my word for that card. And what's interesting is when you kind of have that word and you know the background behind why you chose that word, it makes it easier for you to bring all of the aspects together, because careless might mean something different to someone else. And they might find that this isn't faith as much as it's um, innocence or beginning, or, where me, it was faith, as in take a leap of faith, right? So I'm going to put up as many as I can along here, and we'll kind of go through the storyline, and I'll show you what the Major Arcana looks like put together. Now, of course, I can't fit all of the cards on, so we'll just do what we can and then move on. So here we have, you start out with the Fool's Journey, which, like I had said, was that leap of faith. And from the leap of faith, you gather the tools that you need to be able to continue on this journey. And then you have to discern between right and wrong. So once you have your tools, you need to know how to use them the proper way. And you have to set your boundaries and your rights and wrongs, which when you want to do that, you then bring in that abundance and you start to create what you're looking for, what you want to make in your world, which then leads us to your emperor, which that is the aspect that allows you to rule. So you're taking your rights and wrongs, you're birthing it into your creation, and then you're really setting those boundaries. You're making sure that those boundaries hold true. Then you're also now learning about the outer world. So you need to get guidance. You need to have people that you can rely on and you can depend on. And that's where the Hierophant comes in. Now we're going to take these off. And we'll put the Hierophant here. So we've got to the point where we're learning from other people. And then as you learn, you create partnerships. And then you have choices that you have to make. And when you're dealing with partnerships and making choices together and individually and holding on to your boundaries and all of that, you learn about strength and how to be resilient in those times where challenges come up. You also learn that there are times that you need time for yourself. And then there are times when you have to share the light that you have. So all this work that you do, from learning some more things, creating connections, making choices, staying true to yourself, knowing yourself to be able to share it, all leads to the first section of completion, which is the Wheel of Fortune, which basically says you've come through that first round. You now have an idea of who you are, what you want, and who you want to spend time with, and how to utilize the things that you know as of this far. And then, of course, the Wheel of Fortune is usually that good luck card because you've made it that far. Now, that being said, any aspect of this first half can be brought back up anytime during the cycle of the Fool. None of this is linear. None of it is set in stone. None of it is the only way it can be done. So some people will go from knowing their boundaries to having to implement them and bring in the strength and the resilience to then learning to be flexible in what other people want and being in partnership. So it's never a straight line. So now we have the Wheel of Fortune. We've made it through that first part. Now we have justice. So now we're starting to learn that the choices that we made in the chariot have consequences. And what is it that we want to have come from that? And it's interesting because I've got fairness. So sometimes it's also looking at other people and knowing that they do things differently. They haven't come to the same point here as you have. They have differences. So it might be a case of evaluating differences and being able to accept new ideas and new things into your world, but still being firm in your beliefs. Then we have the Hanged Man, which says, when that gets a little bit too much, take time, right? There is such thing as divine timing, and there is like you've just done the Hermit. You've got to the Wheel of Fortune. You've come to this justice point where you are contemplating the right and wrong of the world. And now you're at a point where, okay, so maybe some of those things aren't as wrong as I thought. How do I feel about them? Let's look at it from a different perspective before we continue with a judgment of it, right? We're evaluating it here. We're looking at it from a different perspective. Then we get to the Death card, which talks about change. So some of those things that you learned in the first half of the Fool's Journey, you're now going to be like, they don't fit with me anymore. They're not where I want to be. And you'll put an end to them. And then, like all things, when you try to change anything, you have to have temperance. You have to be able to be gentle with yourself and be able to understand that it's not going to change like that, right? So that's where she comes in, the reminder of there's a constant flow here. And no matter what, if you mess up, you can just do it again the next time around. It's not just about um, patience, though. It's also about having the ability to make those changes, right? So temperance also changes water into wine or wine into water. So in here, the things that you're trying to stop and you're trying to transform those, you're trying to change them into what you do want. That's your temperance. You need to have the patience while you're working through that. And then we get into the devil. Now, the devil, of course, is about letting go of those habits. So all the work you're doing here is to break the chains that are holding you back with behaviors that don't connect to you anymore. Okay, so over here, we discerned some things, right? We sat with them and looked at them from different perspectives. We then decided that some things didn't fit and we were going to change them. This is we're working towards it. We're creating that transformation, and here we're letting it go. All right. This is so cool. And then from the point where you let it go, you then end up with a lot of chaos because you're now changing things from the way you used to do them. So you'll have a lot of fight back. What's interesting is you also have the help. So if there's things that you're holding on to and you're like, I don't know, I really want to keep that one, and it's not meant for your highest good, God will help you. Source, energy, goddesses, whatever you want to call, you will have that divine, that otherworldly help to break down these old habits and start new again. So, as much as here in the devil card, you want to break free, until this tower moment comes in, you can't. I mean, you can, but to get free from this part, you need to do the tower, whether you do it or you have help doing it, either way, you have help with it. Okay. Which then brings us in to the star. Now, the star is that reconnection, right? We're looking at our intuition, we're looking at the flow and the cycles. You're looking at being grounded while also connecting with your emotions and your intuition. So this is kind of taking this tower moment and saying, okay, that was intense. Let's take a moment. Let's reconnect to who we are. We've now let go of these things and we're now rebuilding. So let's rebuild with the connection to our emotions, the connection to our intuition and our groundedness. And let's make sure that we're doing it in a calm and gentle way. We're looking at and focusing on replenishing ourselves and the world around us, which then brings you to the moon, which is like, okay, so now that you've done this and you've taken that moment to connect, here's your path. Now it's time to create this new way. So after everything that you've learned and the leap of faith that you took, you now have more guidance on the actual direction that you want to take. And this actually could almost lead to another new full moment where you have to take that action, right? But you have built it. Everything that you have done up to this point has brought you to this point to be able to follow that direction. And then, of course, you have the sun, which basically says all the things that you're working towards, all the tower moments and the star connection and the following the moon leads to this new beginning, this innocence and a refreshing look at the world and the crossing of boundaries, the safety of home, the ability to know that you're in the right spot, you're safe, you're in comfort, but it's also brand new and exciting, and it's almost like a fresh start in the middle of the whole thing, even though it's near the end. But when you have that fresh start, you then get the judgment. So now you've had that, hey, this is the new way to begin. Do you accept it? Are you going to follow the tower moment that you've regrown from the beginning? Let go of the devil, the addictions that have been holding you back. Go through the tower, connect with your intuition and emotions, create and start to follow the path that all of this has led to, and then be overjoyed and happy to begin that and answer the call, only for that to be the end. Haha, I was hoping I could fit it on. To be the end and to come full circle, and now we start again. So that is your Major Arcana, kind of in a quick rundown. And as you learn the words that associate with the cards, if you're looking at the cards around them, you have a little bit of an understanding about what's going on. And I might actually pick out a few little sets to kind of look at and see, okay, well, what does this mean? Or how could this um, be interpreted? You know what? I can do that if you're interested. Let me know if that's something you would love to see. I can do that and pick out 3-card spreads that just give a little explanation, a quick overview, and we can play around with that. All right. Thank you so much for joining me for Tarot Tidbits. And until we see you again, bye for now.